So, good day, my brothers and sisters. Yesterday, I watched Makebi Zulu, Makebi Zulu's interview or feature on the SABC News. And I must say that I'm quite disappointed because Makebi Zulu could not make a case. Makebi Zulu could not make a case. And I know some of you will, as usual, start calling me names and everything. But you know, for me, when I make a statement, I usually back it up with reason. I usually back it up with reason. And this is why many times people don't challenge me on the substance of what I talk about. Instead, they go for my personality or whatever innuendos or malice. They don't respond to me on the substantive issue that I've raised. You will see this. I mean, and this goes, you know, both to the opposition, to the ruling. It's the same. When I talk about something, people don't just want to respond to me. Instead, they go and start attacking my personality and making all sorts of wild accusations, you know. But anyway, getting back to Makebi Zulu, I'm saying that Makebi Zulu did not make a case for himself as to why himself, Makebi Zulu, and the family want to buy Edgar Lungu in South Africa. Makebi Zulu did not make a case as to why himself, Makebi Zulu, because he has got personal interest, ulterior motive, and the family, why they don't want to bring the body to Zambia. He couldn't make that case. And I will go through, you know, his interview and show you that really Makebi Zulu did not make his case. He was being asked questions, but he was being evasive. He was being evasive, not responding to the questions as they were put to him. So let's look at the whole interview.
Welcome back. The date for former Zambian President Edgar Lungu's funeral is still yet to be finalized as the dispute between the family and the Zambian government continues. On Tuesday, we heard from the Zambian government, the Minister of Information and Media, Cornelius Moetwa. Tonight, we hear from the family in as far as this impasse is concerned. Remember, the Zambian government approached the court to interdict the funeral of the former president. They want him to be buried in Zambia. Makebi Zulu is the Lungu family spokesperson joining us now in the studio. Makebi, thank you so much for making time for us, and condolences to the family of the passing of the former president.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. Condolences to the people of South Africa on the death of the former deputy president, President Mabuza.
Thank you.
We convey our heartfelt condolences.
We spoke to the Zambian government on Tuesday about this impasse, and they suggested that there was interest from the Zambian government to have negotiations with you as the family to try and find common ground. Have there been any negotiations lately with the government?
Lately, there have not been any negotiations with the government. Maybe I would.
So, right there, the question is very simple. There is an indication from the Zambian government that they want to negotiate. Yeah? There have to be negotiations. Which negotiations are being called for by the South African government and indeed the court. The court did indicate that, you know, they would like to see the parties, you know, resolve this issue. The court does not want, you know, to be on record as the one that sides with either of the families. If you must understand, I mean, both the South African government and indeed even the court, they are looking at, you know, the interest of the government and the interest of the family. They know the government wants to give Edgar Chagwa a dignified send-off as a former head of state, like we have done for these others. And then on the other hand, they are also looking at what the interests of the family. But so they don't want to be like, to come in between, to be the ones that stops the government from giving a former head of state a dignified send-off. Neither do they want to be the ones that stops the family, or twist the arm of the family to go to Zambia. This is why they are saying, discuss this. And this is the first question that is given to Makebi Zulu. And Makebi Zulu responds, there is no any negotiations. But listen what he goes on to say. He refuses there are no negotiations. And listen to how he qualifies that statement.
President Lungu passed on the 5th of June, and from the 5th of June, beginning the 6th of June, we engaged into conversations with the government of the Republic of Zambia.
Yeah.
And most of the things that we would agree on, the government would at some point change their mind about certain issues that were of concern to the family, certain issues that were of concern to the deceased before he died. All those issues were not meeting middle ground. And just when we thought we had reached middle ground, again there was part of the government having to change positions from time and time again. So that's a problem that we had in this one.
So basically, Makebi Zulu goes on to say there is no negotiations. He's basically saying, in a way, we are not interested in any negotiations. That's basically what Makebi Zulu is saying. We are not interested in any further negotiations. And why do I say that? I say this because the further explanation, the qualification of his answer is that, when Edgar Lungu died on 5th of June, we have been engaging with government, but government have been changing positions time and again. Government has been changing positions time and again. We agree on something, they change. We agree on something, they change. Now, the issue is, Makebi Zulu is saying that government has been changing positions. The question that begs an answer is, what are those things that government has been changing on? Because this is the statement that has gone even in the public domain. There is a narrative to say, we can't trust the government, we can't trust the government. Why? Because government has been changing. But the question is, what have they been changing on? Makebi Zulu does not bring out what issues the government has been changing on. Because if you are going to accuse the government that government has been changing on issues that we agree, at least give a few examples for people to appreciate. You can't just say government has been changing the position, but you don't go on to explain what are those points where government has been changing. So, number one, this falls off. It falls off because Makebi Zulu is making wild allegations. These are wild allegations. They are not agreeing. Agreeing on what? Or they are changing. Changing on what? Let's go on.
Said about as a family, are you against the former president being buried in Zambia, or are you against President Chilufya presiding over the funeral?
A very good question there. A very good question there. I want to pause that. A very good question there. Are you against the former head of state, Edgar to be buried in Zambia, or you are against Hakainde Hichilema attending the funeral? That is the question. Are you against taking the body of Edgar to Zambia and be buried there, or you are against Hakainde Hichilema attending the funeral? And let's listen to what Makebi Zulu says.
Well, at this particular point, it has become very clear that the government of the Republic of Zambia cannot be trusted in this because of the back and forth. It is desirable for the family, for the government of South Africa, and for the government of Zambia that President Edgar be buried in Zambia. That after these conversations and negotiations, bringing in mediators from different countries to try and speak to the government and also speak to the family, it has become increasingly apparent that the government cannot be trusted, such that even if we got into negotiations right now, we wonder the sincerity of those negotiations, because we are aware that the moment we step onto Zambian soil, things will change, and the Zambian government will renege on what exactly they will have undertaken.
So, the question was very simple. What is your concern? I mean, do you want Edgar Lungu to be buried in Zambia, or you don't want Hakainde Hichilema to attend to preside over the funeral? And he says, basically, yeah, the family wants Edgar Lungu to be buried in Zambia. But he goes on to say, we can't trust them. We can't trust them because if we go back, they will change. The question is, what are those things that you can't trust them? Because this is what Makebi Zulu has failed, to bring out. What are the issues? What are the issues? What are those issues that you think government will change on? He is not bringing it out. He is not bringing it out. Here is asked a very straightforward question. Are you against Hakainde Hichilema presiding over the funeral? He doesn't respond because that is their issue. That is their issue. They don't want Hakainde Hichilema to preside over the funeral. And surely, I mean, whichever way you can look at it, I mean, this is bitterness. This is bitterness. Whichever way you can look at, this is bitterness. Whether you take it to say, no, that is what Edgar Lungu wanted, it's still bitterness. Because, come on, how would you, I mean, you are a former head of state and there is an incumbent and you know, as a former head of state, there have to be a state funeral. And the state funeral, the head of state must preside over that. How do you say, no, I don't want to be part of that? I mean, even if Edgar Lungu said it, which I doubt, by the way, I strongly doubt that Edgar Lungu said that. I used to sit with Edgar Lungu for hours. For hours, I used to sit with Edgar Lungu, eating with him, drinking with him, for a long time. Even when he has taken some wine, I never heard Edgar Lungu expressing such bitterness. So, but anyway, even if he said it, I mean, a person who is gone is gone. That life is for the living. Life is for the living. So for those who have remained, Makebi Zulu himself, and of course the widow, I mean, or the family, so to say, they should be able, to move forward. Reconciliation must happen. You can't say, no, we are going to live on this. We are going to maintain this. We want this hatred to continue. No, it is not right.
Time and time again. So
this question is very important. This question is very important. Listen to this question.
What guarantees would you like as a family to be comfortable with allowing the former president to be transported to Zambia for burial?
Well, currently there are no guarantees that we're expecting from the state. Especially that you may have noted that the national mourning was supposed to have ended on the 23rd of June. But on the 18th of June, upon that misunderstanding, the president stood and said he had cancelled national mourning and that things would go back to normalcy. As far as the family is concerned, things have gone back to normalcy. Normalcy means national mourning is not there and they're free to do as they please privately as a family. But you saw how that a day later, a spokesperson from State House sought to clarify the end of national mourning to say, no, it hasn't ended, it has actually been extended, when in fact it had ended. So all that is showing that these are perhaps untrustworthy people that we deal with, and that trust has been broken between the state and the family.
So to be clear,
so you see, Makebi Zulu is asked, what guarantees would you want? Basically, in other ways, what do you want? What do you want? In other ways, basically, that is what the journalist is. What do you want? What guarantees would you want? And Makebi Zulu will respond to say, no, we don't want anything. out of all that, what Makebi Zulu is basically saying, we are not interested. We are not interested. We don't want anything. We don't want any guarantees. And why? Because these are not people we can trust. These are not people we can trust. So Makebi Zulu, and you know, these are some of the things that you just don't do. Makebi Zulu, he is in a foreign land, on a foreign national broadcaster, and you go and utter such words to say these are not people that you can trust. We can't trust them. These are not things that you say there. That government is an elected government. We have got 20 million relying on that government. And Makebi Zulu goes to speak to say, these are not people that we can trust. No, you don't speak like that. You don't. You don't speak like that. Even me, as much as I am here, in exile, I'm telling you, when it comes to discussing my government, I discuss my government with respect. I discuss my government with confidence. Because Makebi Zulu, whilst Makebi Zulu is in South Africa, the rest of us are out there. There is a country that is being run. There is a country that is going on. Zambia is not a failed state. Zambia is not a failed state. So you cannot be saying these are not people that you can trust. As if the Zambian government is a failed state. It's not a failed state. It is not a failed state. And the elections are coming next year. Hakainde Hichilema is likely to be voted in again. And then you have Makebi Zulu to say, no, we don't, there's nothing that we want. We don't want to discuss with them anything. We don't want to discuss anything with them. Because these are not people that can be trusted. Wow. Wow. And I've been telling you that it is political. There is a political aspect to this. Listen to Makebi. Listen.
So to be clear, as the family, you are not necessarily against the former president being buried in Zambia.
We're not necessarily against the former president being buried in Zambia. But what is of concern right now is that it would be a mockery for this administration to be the ones to put him to rest.
And there, you hear the politics. I've been telling you that this is political. This is political. He is saying, yes, we want Edgar Lungu to be buried in a dignified manner, but not this administration. Not this administration, meaning Makebi Zulu is waiting for another administration. He's waiting for another president to be sworn in. And that is when we can have a dignified send-off. As far as Hakainde Hichilema and his government are concerned, they cannot give Edgar Lungu a dignified send-off. And what are the reasons? Listen, what are the reasons? Listen to Makebi Zulu.
Or indeed, the media has been weaponized against the family, making the family look as though they're the villains in these negotiations, the ones that have been unreasonable. And with that, the picture that it gives is that they don't care about what the family thinks. It's a PR stand for the government. It's about the government wanting to look good, not embarrassing themselves in this particular region. The president was on TV saying that if we don't bury President Edgar, it will be an embarrassment. That should not be his concern. His concern is what and how does the family want to have President Edgar buried. What do they want?
So, you see, here, he's giving reasons why they don't want, or why they believe that Hakainde Hichilema's administration cannot give Edgar Lungu a dignified send-off. What are the reasons? Number one, he says the government has weaponized the media against the family. Okay? The government has weaponized the media against the family. Now, if you have been following the media, particularly social media, there is propaganda on both sides. There is propaganda on both sides. And I think a lot of people, are kind of tired of this. They're kind of tired. They're like, come on, what's going on? What's going on? So really, much more than the government weaponizing the media, I think it is more about people getting tired with this situation. They are getting tired with this situation. And okay, fine. I mean, you can talk about the media, but what is the president himself saying? The president has been very consistent. He has been speaking a message of love, a message of compassion, a message of reconciliation, a message of, sympathizing with one another. Hakainde Hichilema has been very clear. So I don't understand when Makebi Zulu says this administration. Because President Hakainde Hichilema has been very clear. Yes, we were political rivals. Yes, we had our differences. But now we are in this situation. We need to come together as a nation and mourn together as a nation and with the family. That's what Hakainde Hichilema has been saying through and through. So how can you accuse Hakainde Hichilema of bitterness when you are the one who is exhibiting a bitterness? Because if you ask me, between Hakainde Hichilema and this Makebi Zulu, the spokesperson of the family, who is speaking a message of reconciliation, who is speaking a message of uniting the country, who between the two? You see, Makebi Zulu, from what he has said here, it is clear for them there are no negotiations. No more negotiations. I mean, it just has to be the court to decide. But really, I mean, Makebi Zulu and the family are really going against so many people. The South African government, the courts itself, the Zambian government. I mean, for them, no, they don't want. They don't want. So who is the problem? And here is a question, a very good question comes to say, I mean, the government is saying that they are ready to compromise. And they said, no, we can't compromise. We don't want. So who is the problem here? Who is the problem? And for them, according to him, basically the issue is, you are saying that Hakainde Hichilema should not preside over the funeral. But he's the head of state, and other presidents will be coming, and you will be the one to host them. How can he not be there? He says it's not a presidential funeral. It is a state funeral. And the president is not the state. I don't know whatever he means by that. It is not a presidential funeral. What is a presidential funeral? What is a presidential funeral? What is a presidential funeral? I don't understand. What is a presidential funeral? What is a presidential funeral? It is a state funeral. Okay? It is a state funeral, and Hakainde Hichilema is the head of state. How can you say, no, the president is not a state? Then who is the state? Of course, it's the people. The state is the people. Yes. But those people are led by the head of state. And if there is a function, I mean, the head of state must lead the people, must lead the state. How can you just remove him there? I think these people are having problems to accept that Hakainde Hichilema is president. These people are still very bitter. They are very bitter. They can't still believe it that Hakainde Hichilema won the elections and they lost, including Makebi himself, because Makebi lost big time. Makebi was handed a parliamentary seat on a silver platter. He didn't campaign, he just walked in to become a member of parliament. Then he was given a position as a minister in the province where his constituency belonged. And he had all the money because he had all the connections of the guys that were making money in PF. And yet, he lost an election. This guy is bitter. This guy cannot accept that Hakainde Hichilema is the head of state. And they think they can just, toss him around. I may not agree with Hakainde Hichilema on a number of issues, which is true. But the fact is, the guy won the elections. The guy is the head of state. You can't just remove him. They did this even at Kaunda, on Kaunda's funeral. On Kaunda's funeral, they relegated him to watch the proceeding from his sitting room. They want to do that again when he is the head of state. Let's imagine if it was Edgar who was in power. If it was Edgar who was in power. I mean, would there be even negotiations? There wouldn't even be these negotiations. This case would have been handled all differently. Anyway, there is a very good question that is following here to say, what was the relationship of the two, the head of state and Edgar Chagwa?
The former president and President Chilufya. I know there have been questions raised and I asked the Zambian government about whether or not they assisted. For instance, when he was sick and he needed to travel for his medication, they seemed to suggest that they were always.
And by the way, notice, this camera, what they are showing. They are showing Edgar Lungu, I think it's celebration, but they are showing him as a president, This picture which they are showing here, it is not just for nothing. They are trying to show this guy was a former head of state. This guy had a support base. Anyway.
Pinning up their jaw and willing to help. I asked about the presidential benefits that were cut off. They said that, well, that's because the former president had decided to enter politics, and according to the law in Zambia, once you decide that you lose all your presidential benefits, what's your side as the family?
You see, sometime in August of 2023, he was still in retirement. He asked to be taken to the hospital.
Now, there is the, 2023. This guy is saying in August 2023, Edgar Lungu was still in retirement. But, I am one of those people that brought the Alebo Elapo agenda. The Alebo Elapo agenda started somewhere in April 2022. The Alebo Elapo agenda started in April 2022. And Edgar Lungu, of course, never wrote to government to say, I've come back into politics, until, yes, in 2023, late 2023, I think after October, that is when he announced. But it was very clear that we had started campaigning for him. The issues relating to him handing over PF or appearing on the names of trustees at Pakra, this issue started much earlier. So Makebi Zulu is lying by saying, in August 2023, Edgar Chagwa was still in retirement. It is not true. It is a lie. It is a lie. And he goes on to talk about the jogging and whatever. All these things. Before, when Edgar Lungu, there was no politics. In the issue of jogging, the government had no issue. Going to church, it had no issue. It is because Edgar Lungu came back into power and started campaigning. That is when these issues started coming up. Even the issue of him going out, of course it was speculative. It was speculative because no clear medical documentation was presented to say this man needed to go for medical treatment. So even there, really, you can understand government. Of course, it's not that, I like it, but unfortunately, when politics is involved, things are not so straightforward. Things are obscure, and people find it difficult to trust, just like they are doing, because they are doing politics. That's why they are finding it difficult to trust. It is about politics. Anyway, I think I've spoken a lot on this issue. But at 20 hours, I will come back, and I hope that, you people can call in and give your views. I will talk less because I've already done much of the talking. So at 20 hours, I'll simply, open phone lines and allow people to give their views. So 20 hours, let's meet up. Thank you very much for watching. For now, I'll come back at 20 hours. Thank you.